At this point in time, we call upon Eric, our beloved son, to give some words of eulogy today.
Thank you, Rabbi Marcus, for your kindness all throughout this process. Shiva is difficult, but you've lightened our burden with all of your serial kindnesses. I'm grateful to you and the entire Temple of Aaron family. Certainly to all the people that are here, very grateful. And to those folks who are tuning in on the internet in each time zone, thank you. My mother would delight in that, so I appreciate all of that. It is, as you can imagine, a very difficult enterprise for a son to eulogize his mother. But in that respect, thankfully, I'm no different than other Jewish sons throughout Jewish history. Quite mercifully, the tradition that I received from my mother and that she and I share tells us exactly what to do in a difficult circumstance like this. It gives us an instruction manual. The book of Ecclesiastes tells us exactly how to attend a funeral when it notes, Kol ha'adam v'chaye yaten el libo. At the end of one person's life, the mourners who survive are to yaten el libo, to take to heart the life and the example of the family member who has departed, in this case my mother. So we think about her life and her example and what she tried to be during her life and take these things to heart. On a much happier day than today, when our extended family had gathered to celebrate Kim's and my wedding, my brother John, in his best man speech, classic best man speech, observed that my mother's favorite word in the entire world was attitude. This, of course, was true on two levels. John and I thought it was her very favorite word because she was so often using it with us, describing our attitudes as we were growing up and maybe how our attitudes had fallen short in one respect or another. Yet it's also true that my mother believed at her core, with every sinew and fiber of her being, that one's attitude in this life was the key to success and to well-being. It operated like a special form of magic. One's attitude can give us, mere mortals, dominion over a very cruel world and allow us to scale even difficult setbacks, like this week, and overcome them with ease, depending upon your attitude. It is, in fact, a mother's spell. She hoped that John and I would have healthy attitudes so we would be strong and that we would be kept safe from harm, which was the wish throughout our lives. Attitude, she would remind us, began with an A. It was at the beginning of the dictionary, and as my mother believed, pretty much everything else in life. Attitude. This wonderful, smart, brassy woman died at the conclusion of the holiday of Shavuos, and to my mind, that too is noteworthy. Every year on Shavuos, Jews across the world read the book of Ruth. It's the story of the most famous convert in all of Jewish history. Ruth was the great-grandmother of King David, who wrote Psalm 23, that the rabbi so beautifully sung, and will be, it is said, a maternal ancestor of the Messiah. In the most dramatic moment in that book, the book of Ruth, Ruth, who then was a non-Jew, declares to her mother-in-law, "Do not urge me to leave you or to turn back and not follow you. For wherever you will go, I will go. Wherever you lodge, I will lodge. Your people shall be my people, and your God, my God." My God. I think about that and I say, my God. In that important moment, Ruth, who frankly was chock-a-block full of A attitude, inclined herself in an entirely new way, and by her transformative choices, changed not only herself, her faith, all of the Jewish traditions that would follow, and, as I believe we'll see one day, all of humankind. an important choice. 66 years ago, in another important choice, my mother converted to Judaism, and she transformed herself, her life, her faith, and she signified all of these things by taking on the Hebrew name of Ruth. Ruth of old was an incredibly strong-willed woman who, in arguing with her mother-in-law in that famous passage, simply didn't take no for an answer. And that was my mother. She did not take no for an answer. Both Ruths, the one of 1100 BC and the one that's still nearer to us, had a very strong sense of who they were, who they wanted to be with and around in this life, and what they were destined to become. And Shavuos has always meant a good deal to our family as Jews, notwithstanding the events of this week, which admittedly were pretty hard. It's always been my very favorite Jewish holiday, more than Hanukkah or Purim or Tu B'Shvat or all of them combined. I love Shavuos. I was bar mitzvahed on the day that led up to the holiday, and then in a double chai, 36 years to the day afterwards, I had the great privilege and high honor to read this week's parsha, the next portion in the Bible, not so, at the Wailing Wall in Jerusalem. So I have always been all in on Shavuos. And my mother loved all of the things that Shavuos features and emphasizes. Joyful celebrations with family, endless supplies of cheesecake, a scholar's delight in books and important texts, and discussions with those whom you love most that simply ignore the clock on the wall and go very late in the evening. She loved all of those things. Indeed, some years back, she was given the very high honor by her synagogue back in Rochester, New York, to help inscribe a new Sefer Torah, a new Torah scroll that the synagogue had obtained. And she inscribed it, they were finishing off the last portion, she inscribed the letter Resh, the Hebrew letter for R, for Ruth, and I think for herself too. Indelibly and forever, my mother made her mark, especially on John and I. And so, if we mourners are to genuinely follow the admonition, Yeten el libo, to take to our hearts my mother's life and example, I would say on that point, remember the truths of the two Ruths. The two Ruths believed that you should love those who are closest to you energetically and unreservedly, and you should love them with an intensity that at first bewilders people, and then, frankly, mystifies them, and then changes the entire world. Oh, and have a little cheesecake, too. She'd want that. She definitely would want that. May God comfort all of us amongst the mourners of Zion and Jerusalem, and please pray that we will all laugh and sing together in the world to come.